So this is a tutorial on how to get from Creo Parametric to your Makeware software so you can 3D print your wheels. So I'm going to start off with, here's my wheel, when it is complete, it's got all the different parts on it. You'll notice that the wheel we've designed has got a flat surface back here. And that is because that surface there is going to end up flat on the table of the 3D printer. If I was to put this down flat on the 3D printer, what will end up happening is it will try and print in space, and this will not look that good. So you got to think about your designs. So step one to get from Creo Parametric to Makeware software is I've saved it. So I just go save, okay, hit OK, and I'll get this error message all the time. Okay, just know that it's saving. Okay, and from here I'm just going to simply go to File. From File, go to Save As, and I'm just going to click on Save As. And all the different parts you can see are here that I've created. But down here it says Type and Part. Well, instead of a part, I'm going to scroll down, and you can see all the different things I can save it as. And I want one particular one called a stereolithography, or an STL file. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to call this one wheel class, wheel hyphen, whoops, can't even spell, wheel dash class demo. Okay, that's class demo. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, what comes up is this Export STL dialog box. And over in here, the only thing you need to do is where it says chord height, I'm going to change that to 0. Okay, and I'm going to hit Apply. Now, what that does is it converts the wheel, and it gives it a whole bunch of different, basically triangles and angles to make it look like a smooth object. Now, if I was to change this chord height to 0.1, okay, and I hit Apply, watch what happens. Okay, now I don't even have a circle anymore. Okay, so know that if you want your wheel to turn out like that, put it to 0.1, but really just put a 0 in there, and then the program automatically sets you up. Okay, so that's all set up like that, and you just hit OK, and it is now exported as that file. So I'm going to close this off, and now this is the Makeware software that I've started up, and I want to open up to the file and basically bring it into here. So I go to File, Open. I'm going to have to go find my drive. So in this case, it is S-Classen, my L drive, and under that is Creo, and then I put it under Sumo, and Sumo again, and then right here is Wheel Class Demo. Okay, and I'm going to open it up, and it's going to come in here. And now here's the thing: sometimes it defaults to millimeters. So right now you see the object down here. It's really, really tiny because that's in millimeters right now. So one is I'm going to keep the position. Okay. The second thing that's coming up is, do I want to resize it? No, or keep the size. Well, it's in millimeters, so I'm going to rescale the object. Okay, basically to go from millimeters to inches. And if you read this, right, it may be designed in inches. Would you like to scale it to millimeters? Okay, I'm going to rescale it, yeah. Okay, and there comes in the right size. Okay. Now, in here, there's a couple of different things I can do. I can look at it, and basically, if I click Look, okay, this box comes up. If I hold my left mouse button, I can move it around, okay, and look kind of where I'm at. Okay, if I hold the center mouse button, okay, it kind of moves it on angles like this. And if I want to view it from the top, obviously just click Top here. Side, right, you get the point. Okay, I'm just going to put it kind of in a 3D or kind of a isometric display like that. Okay. What I want to do now is I actually want a second wheel, so I'm going to make this pretty simple. I'm going to click on it. I'm just going to hit Control-C, Control-V, and I'm going to paste a second one, or you can come up to Edit, Copy, Paste, and do the same thing. And for placement, I just want them really close together. And the other thing I want is I want them basically in the center of the table. So I'm going to go to Move, and I'm just going to move this guy over a tiny bit, so it's kind of in the center. And I'll move this guy here over a tiny bit, so it's basically in the center. Okay, and they can be really close together, just not touching. Okay, there's other things of turn and things like that. So when I click on here, I don't need to turn it right now because they're actually positioned right, but sometimes you have to. You'll get the point as you kind of play with this. Now, I'm ready to print. So I have to convert, okay, and to actual output to the 3D printer. So I'm going to go to Make here, okay. And if an error comes up here, it says, service is not available. What you do is you hit Cancel, and up here, Services, If the error comes up, you hit stop services, you run through it, then you go restart services, and then you restart through it. Okay, so on some computers you'll have this glitch that you got to go stop and then restart. Okay, so I'm going to go to Make. Here I'm going to select, it's export to file. Yes, the replicator 2 is what we're using. Okay, the material is PLA. We know that. Okay, and then what I have down here is advanced options. I click on them, and there's different settings in here. So infill. The higher the infill, the more dense the object. Okay. For this thing, you're making wheels. It doesn't need to be that dense. Okay. So I'm going to say that your infill is going to be 25%. Okay. Number of shells. Think of that as how many times it's going to go around and build the outside layer before it starts to do the infill. So I'm going to take number of shells, and I typically set it to 3. Okay. So that gives you a sturdy project. If you set it to 1 shell, it puts down 1 layer. And then basically what it does is it just starts filling in the inside, so it can be sometimes a bit brittle. Okay, and layer height we're going to leave it at 0.2. Okay, if you want a really dense object, again, you can change this to 0.1, but don't. Okay, now these settings here are kind of optimized for how fast it's going to print. If you put the infill to 100% and you put the shells to 8 and you put the layer height to 0.1, an object might take 10 hours to print. Whereas if you leave it here, maybe it'll only take an hour. Okay, so just be aware that sometimes you got to play with these, and depending on what the actual output of the object is or the final product, you will change these values around. The only other thing we're going to change is temperature, and you can change this to 210 degrees. Okay, 230 will work. 210 is a little bit better of a temperature. So now all we're going to do is go to export, and what I'm going to do is have in my hot little hand a USB drive that I am sticking into the computer at the moment. Okay, and what will happen is it will show up in here in just a second. Okay, and I want to make sure that I actually am saving it to the USB drive. Some kids accidentally saved the C drive. Right now, if I saved it here, I'd be saving it to my L drive. Okay, and there you can see the removable disk just showed up. Okay, so I'm going to make sure I go to the removable disk, double click it. You can see other people's things are here. Okay, the easiest way to name something is you put your first name, so I know what you have or what's on the card. So I'm just going to put Klassen, and I'm going to put a dash. You don't need spaces here. You can have spaces, I mean. Okay, so Klassen, and I'm going to put wheel. So if everybody puts their first name, okay, and then dash wheel, I know, you know, every other kid in the class knows that's your project and what the part is. Okay, because when you start looking here, what's base 3? You don't know. Okay, Horvath, I know that's somebody's with their last name. Okay, that's Tanner's, right? But bubble tank, no idea what some of these are. Okay, and there'll be a lot of them here. Okay, the other thing is when I save it, it will be the top one. So I simply hit save. Okay, you'll notice in the corner here it's going to do something called slice. So it's going to go through and it's going to convert from the 3D software, the Makerware software, to the actual 3D printer code that's needed to actually make this. Okay, and this might take a little bit. It'll slice, it'll verify, it'll print. Okay, and all at the same time, what's happening is it's writing to the USB drive that's got an SD card in it. Where's the SD card come from? From the 3D printer. Okay. And I'm basically going to stop here because I think this will probably take a little bit longer than you want to wait for in this video. And that is basically it. Once this is done and it's complete, you'll take the card and you go over to the 3D printer, and you will see in the next tutorial how to actually 3D print.